Hello my loyal companions, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be the much awaited Rogue tier list for Season 1, which will explain the meta currently within Rogue Company. I really want to take the time to look, evaluate, and gain the best information I could for this tier list for you, so you have an accurate representation of exactly what the meta is like within Rogue Company currently. If you do go on to enjoy the video, you just want to see daily, educational, Rogue Company content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel, but for now, let's get into it. As always, I want to define exactly what this tier list is going to be about and what each tier stands for in my eyes when deciding this. For me, the S tier are rogues who are going to be great for every single situation you could find yourself within the game. These are your top tier meta rogues who you want to be picking up and making sure you're comfortable with. A tier are going to be for the rogues who are good in most situations and you can pull out and really carry with in your games in Demolition, but maybe aren't as good as S tier rogues because they're not great in every single situation. These are great meta rogues, but just don't hit that top tier. B tier are going to be the rogues who are good for some situation. They're a little bit more situational in terms of when you want to bring them out. They might be a bit more for one sort of comp or one sort of strategy that you're trying to implement and won't be seen every single game or don't have the carry potential to really win every game for you solo. Then we have C tier rogues who are just rogues that aren't in a fantastic place at the moment and have better options that do pretty much the same thing. Whereas D tier are going to be the rogues who I think are unusable due to bugs or any other feature that makes them basically unplayable. If you're just wanting to see the completed rogue tier list graphic and are not interested in understanding why each rogue is where they are and what makes them meta or not, you can skip to this timestamp right here to see that full graphic. For now, let's jump into the tier list and see exactly why each rogue is meta or not. Going alphabetically, we're going to start with Anvil, who I think is in a pretty good place in the game at the moment. The use of flash grenades has diminished since the last season, which means that his passive isn't as useful, but it still can't be taken away because the flash grenades are still quite prevalent in some situations, and that immunity can be really nice. However, what really is bringing Anvil into the fold for me is his use as a defense rogue for retake potential. And what I mean by this is that what Anvil allows you to do on the defense is 4-stack one site, allow the enemy teams to plant the bomb on the other one while you're nice and safe and not getting picked as you stay together, and then move as a 4-man unit to retake and reclaim that bomb site, using the Anvil shield to block off some line of sight and defuse behind the shield, because what a lot of teams do is they plant the bomb and move back to angles to hold it, and Anvil completely disrupts this and makes them change their playstyle. Anvil for this reason is in a pretty good state, along with his awesome perk set, which is honestly unrivaled I think in the game, with tenacity, life drain and headstrong, allowing him to survive for a really long time. His weapons are not too bad, and the APS and C4 really allow him to do a lot within the game, and for all of this combined, he's going to be placed up in the A tier for me. Shark is the next rogue I want to touch on, and he was really prevalent in the flashbang meta that I spoke about just previously, but that isn't as prevalent nowadays. What we're seeing from Shark nowadays is that he's really good for newer players who need a bit of a forgiving playstyle with the self-revive or the additional health you get from the ability, depending on which side you choose to use it with. And he has a good weapon set and aggressive playstyle that helps teach newer players how to learn the game a little bit more. Where he does lack nowadays though is in higher levels of play from say gold rank upwards. Teams know to thirst him when he's self-reviving, or at least they know to team shoot him when he pops that overhill. He's not in as good a state as he was previously within the game, and whilst he can win fights 1v1 or even 1v2, he doesn't really do much past that other than performing quite a tanky frontliner should you rush past the point. For this reason, I think he's more situational and he's going to be placed in the B tier. Dali is the next rogue to look at, and she has been top of the tier list in S tier for pretty much every tier list I've done. The reason for this is because she has a great versatile and adaptable kit that really lends itself to any situation. She has two good weapons in the MXR and objects an SMG, and whilst the MXR did take a bit of a nerf in the recent patch, it is still a bit of a beast of a weapon. It just has a slightly less fire rate and less damage, which means its time to kill is slower than some other weapons, bringing it a bit more balanced. This hasn't stopped her still being useful from a utility point of view though. She still has a smoke grenade and frag grenade, which are great in early level rounds and for later level strategy plays, with a great perk set with tenacity and that much needed lifeline revive perk, which is so crucial within games. Her ability as a supportive rogue and blending to any situation by linking to different passives and gaining that passive for different strategies means she's useful in pretty much every single situation, and therefore she will continue to remain in the S tier. Next up is going to be Dallas, and Dallas was not placed very highly in my last tier list, being placed in C tier, as I didn't think he had much of a place within the game. Dallas now though, since Cloaked was nerfed, and he can now reveal anybody other than Lancer when she uses her ability, means he can really be that intel rogue he needed to be. That alongside with his massive accuracy focus, which means good players can absolutely dominate with him, means that Dallas is in a pretty good spot in my mind. He's great at putting on the flank, revealing one person, picking them off, and then gaining another reveal using his recharge passive. But more than that, he's just great at information for your team, and paired with some other rogues, he's an absolutely lethal rogue with that reveal and can find great picks when needed. For these reasons, Dallas is being moved up all the way to the A tier as a rogue you definitely want to be picking up, especially if you're a good shot. Dima is next up on the list, and Dima was placed quite highly in my last tier list. I think he has great frag out potential. I think his ultimate, especially with the reveal from his passive when he hits explosives, is great for intel, but also dealing massive damage and allowing your team to capitalize on a push. However, I do not think Dima is in as good a place as he previously was. I think whilst he is great at dealing damage, there are other rogues that can kind of do this a little bit better in some situations, and the replenish and life drain perks that he has are not really suited to his playstyle as much as they are, say, someone like a shark. I think he definitely can be used in some situations, but more than not, I think his weapons are outgunned, and I don't think he's just in as good a spot within the current meta of the game, and therefore I'm putting him down towards the B tier of this list. Now, Fixit is quite a controversial rogue within Rogue Company due to the fact that he has been GA'd, Gentleman's Agreement, or very simply banned in a lot of the competitive scene, including the $10,000 CMG tournament. A lot of people do not like Fixit's ability that allows him to see through smoke. They think it is too overpowered. But in my opinion, I think that people are just not playing around this as much as they could. I think there are definitely counters that have been put in both by balancing changes to other rogues, but also just tactical plays that you can use to fight around Fixer that are not adopted by a lot of people, and instead the easy option is just to GA him. I think you have to really be a Fixer main to use his weapons and abilities to the best of their advantage, and therefore I don't really see him being a core meta rogue currently within the game. I still think he's good, and if you are a Fixer one trick, I think you can absolutely bomb out. But I think for the majority of the player base, Fixer is not necessarily the way to go, and therefore I'm placing him down in the B tier. Glitch is the next rogue to touch on, and Glitch is not in a great spot currently within the game. He hasn't been for a while. His hack ability has been used more for intel gathering rather than for sort of aggressive breaching hacking that it's meant to be used for. I think the change to the trench where you can't punch his barbed wire now means that Glitch is better because that is only another way to break that barbed wire and is quite important, but I still don't think that has brought him enough into the fold. I think there are a few changes that Rogue Company could make to his balance, or his ability at least, to make him fold into the meta, but I will be putting out a Glitch gameplay video in Ranked soon, and I'll sort of talk about those topics when I do it, and that'll be coming later next week. As for Glitch nowadays though, he is really more of an intel flanking rogue, using padded steps and his ability to see who's in his immediate area, pick them off and move to the next target while silently moving around the map with his silenced weapon. Generally though, this isn't really the ideal situation for Glitch, and other rogues just do that same job better, and for me, I'd be able to place him down in that C tier position. Coming new onto the scene is Kestrel, the brand new rogue to enter Rogue Company, and I think she's had actually a really good impact on the game and added a bit of dynamic difference to how we're seeing Rogue Company meta. The introduction of the bounce grenade adds for lots of new angles that can be used to find picks, and her ability flushes people out of positions like no other. The fact that her ability thirsts her kills as well, because it hits multiple drones in the same area, which will not only down them, but then completely kill a person in demo, means this is really useful. For me, and with a lot of playtime with her in our scrims and comps with my teammate playing her, we see the real power of her, and honestly I think she is slightly slept on in the competitive scene, but for you average players she'll carry your games really well with high damage. Her biggest drawback is the lack of tenacity, but she kind of makes up for that with how much distance she can really hold with her weapons and abilities. For all this reason, Kestrel is being moved into Rogue Company and being in my tier list moved into the A tier. Lancer is the next rogue to discuss here in my tier list. Lancer is always a topic of controversy when it comes to Rogue Company, especially in Demolition, where a lot of players think she is incredibly strong, and whilst last tier list I did not really think that she was in that position, I thought she wasn't so meta, I think Lancer has a much bigger place currently within the game. I think Lancer's ability to be patient and find good flanking opportunities, or simply get to other positions faster than any other rogue within the game, is a massive advantage if the player who's using her is good. When it comes to Demolition, she requires a much higher skill cap than in something like Strikeout, and therefore a good player needs to be on her to make her work efficiently. For that reason, I don't recommend a lot of people use her unless you're very comfortable with timing, positioning, and always winning a 1v1 or 1v2 if you're able to outplay it. But I think she has a great spot in the current meta in the game, even despite the fact that she got a small nerf to her ability in its duration of recharge, and that she can now be seen on Talon Dart. Despite that, I think she's in a good spot, and I'm going to place it up in the A tier as well within this tier list. Phantom is the next rogue that we're going to discuss here on this tier list, and she had a recent change that removed her DMR in replacement of the Nightshade assault rifle. This, in my opinion, means that Phantom is no longer limited to that sniper playstyle and instead can be used for a lot more intel gathering as well. She has the sticky sensors which can hold off positions, nano smoke which can reveal and block off lines of sight, and with tracker rounds, life drain, and that Nightshade, she can really beam through teams and be great at just assessing lots of information within a situation. For me, I've been using her a lot more on certain maps where there are a lot of angles that I want covered, or a lot of close quarters where the Nightshade really shines, and I think she's got a really great place in that playstyle as opposed to the sniper, which isn't always that meta depending on the map. For me, I'm going to place Phantom up in the A tier of this tier list. I think she's in a great spot right now. I think the Nightshade was actually a really good addition and not as overpowered as a lot of people were thinking, including myself, leading up to hearing about that change. Ronin is up next, and she is of course a personal favorite of mine. I think she has such a great adaptable playstyle that means new players can learn her really well, or really experienced players can maximize to a great potential and great frag out potential. In solo queue, I genuinely can't think of a better rogue to make sure you carry your team, and when it comes to sort of a team-based demolition sense, I think she really fits into any comp and any situation if you're comfortable playing with her and her weapons. The SLC, her SMG, it was already a beamer but got a buff this patch as well, which means it's even stronger, and I would definitely recommend using Ronin if you haven't already, and for this reason she is remaining in the S tier up there due to her perk set, her weapons, and her general aggressive or defensive playstyle, and just that adaptability. Saint comes in next on this tier list, and he is basically, in my opinion, a slightly downgraded version of Dahlia. He got a change where his assault rifle, the M4, had its scope removed, and now he plays in a third-person perspective when using that weapon, as opposed to before when you used to zoom into the scope and use it as a first-person weapon. I think overall this change has been good for him, but the damage nerf on it means it's one extra shot to kill, and for me, I found that really frustrating, and I tend to leave people on one shot a lot more than I used to, and that as a player really frustrates me. The addition of C4 definitely helps redeem some of those qualities, but for me, I'd still think he's just a worse version of Dahlia. The revive is much slower, and in fact, even when purchasing Helping Hands, which reduces the revive time, if you calculate the time from when you press the ability button to when the person is revived, it's still slower than the base link of Dahlia. Dahlia, in my opinion, is just superior, but that doesn't mean Saint is bad and isn't viable if you want to use him. He does have the benefit of being able to revive everybody, whereas Dali can only revive one person. But for all these reasons, I'm going to place him down in the B tier of this list. Scorch is the next rogue who has seen a lot of popularity, not only because of her Arbitrator shotgun, which when being held on short positions can one-tap a person to the body, which has proved so useful in many situations and positions and strategies, but the fire immunity means she can't be flushed off of positions as easy as some other rogues. This lends her to being really good at holding a position, planting the bomb and not being incendiary grenaded off it, or defusing the bomb behind that Anvil shield like we talked about in the retake, and just surviving behind that without a lot of threat because she can't be shot because of the shield, and can't be incendiary grenaded off because of her fire immunity. Her weapons are very short range, which is a little bit of a suffering, and honestly, while she does get a lot of playtime at the moment, isn't pushing her into the S tier, but she is sitting comfortably up there in the A tier as a great rogue to pick up. Sigrid was also a newer rogue to be added to the game, but she hasn't seen much traction. In my opinion, this is due to a few reasons that I've discussed a little bit on this channel and discussed with the lead developer Scott Gandy himself. I talked about how she can't regenerate health when being shot at on her shield because it stops her health regeneration, which I believe is some sort of bug or just bad mechanic that is in the game, and she can be melee through that shield, which is incredibly frustrating when you're trying to use it to protect yourself in a life or death situation. I think Sigrid just isn't in a great state at the moment and isn't really worth using. I think there are better rogues that do her job, and while she can be fun and she can really have a lot of outplay potential and be really frustrating if you're good with her, she requires a lot of playtime and just isn't in the best spot, and for that reason I'm going to put her down in the C tier along with Glitch in this tier list. Talon comes in next to the tier list, and honestly I think Talon is in a fantastic spot right now. I think Talon is such an underrated higher level rogue to solo carry your games. I think he has a great weapon, he's a C4, a flashbang, and more importantly he has a radar dart which can reveal areas, and if you're good with it, you can really scan and protect yourself across the entire map. He is great at flushing out enemies, finding them, seeing exactly what's going on, and gaining great intelligence, which is his whole point, and then deciding what you want to do after that. And for that reason, I think he's really good. With his perk set as well, having tenacity and life drain, he has great survivability and can fight multiple members of a team quite easily. Overall, I think Talon is in a fantastic spot, and now the fact he can see Lancer as well means he's a great counter to Lancer for some strategic play on certain maps, and therefore I'm going to place him all the way up in the S tier as a rogue I definitely recommend you trying due to his high meta position. Trench is the next rogue to look at, and he got a rework this season that changed him ever so slightly. His barbed wire now cannot be punched, and instead of having one big 9-meter barbed wire, he has two smaller 4-meter barbed wires. Whilst these aren't very big, and honestly you can jump over them most of the time, the fact that you can't punch them means if you get them in a good spot, they're really hard to deal with. And I've had a lot of situations where someone has put a barbed wire down, a gas grenade on top, and an incendiary or poison from Vi, and he has absolutely destroyed our team, slowed us down so much, and meant we've been caught out of position loads of times. I think Trench is actually in an alright spot at the moment, but the MXR nerf did hurt him ever so slightly, and his weapons just aren't the best. The MXR isn't bad, but the HRM really does fall short unless you're absolutely insane with it. Trench isn't really your frag out kind of rogue with no aggressive utility, but he's great at holding one site himself. You can put him down there and trust that he'll survive, especially the fact he can put his barbed wires in 2 spots now, and they're not as easily destroyed without wasting a piece of utility. I'm going to place Trench down in the B tier of this tier list as a rogue who's great for certain situations, but not one you want to revolve your entire team comp around. And then finally in this tier list comes what might be my favorite rogue within Rogue Company, and this is going to be Vi. Vi is one of those rogues who is great in every single situation. She can be used aggressively to flush people out of positions with her incendiary grenade and poison. She basically gains a free headstrong if you use that poison correctly every single round by gaining additional health, and her weapons are absolutely insane at dealing with different ranges as well. In Vi's current state, I don't see a reason why she is not a top tier rogue, and for me I'm going to place her in the S tier. That's going to be the completed rogue tier list for you guys, and hopefully this has given you an insight into exactly what the meta is within Rogue Company. But if you agree or disagree, I'd love to know down in the comments and have a respectful discussion with you. Again though, if you are going to talk about why a rogue is in a certain spot, make sure you've at least seen the whole video and you've seen my reasoning behind each rogue so that we can talk about it from that point of view as well. Okay then guys, that takes us to the end of the video, and if you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also come follow me on twitch.tv/RADTHARGAMING, see live gameplay commentaries, guides, Q&As, and playing with viewers. If you're buying anything from the Epic Games Store, whether it be Rogue Company, Rogue Bucks, or anything from any other Epic Games, make sure you use my created code RADTHARGAMING at checkout to help support this channel with no extra cost to yourself. All the links you're going to need are down in the description below, but for now guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. And remember, be loyal, be brave, be relentless. And I'll catch you in the next